Hello, welcome back to CYS 630. We're going to talk a little bit about contingency planning. Contingency planning is something that, as I've already mentioned in a previous video or two, that it's something that you have probably already talked about in a different class. It's something that we're looking at in this class with a legal lens. Over the last few weeks, we've talked about contracts, we've talked about tort, we've talked about some of those legal frameworks. And so when we're thinking about contingency planning, it's not just, if we have this incident, how do we get our systems back up? But it's also a bigger picture, thinking about the regulatory framework, thinking about the legal framework, thinking about all of those other pieces that we have in mind, that if our systems go down, are we liable? Are we responsible for anything else? For example, if you have a service level agreement with your customers and your system goes down because of ransomware, are you financially responsible for that other organization? You may be. It all depends on what's in the contract, in the service level agreement. If you are a vendor and your system gets infected with malware, how does that work in the supply chain? There's been some very well-known examples of that over the last few years. So as we think about these different pieces today or this week, it's not so much about what do we do about ourselves, but it's also what do we do about ourselves in the context of the legal regulatory framework that we find ourselves in today. And so, for example, when you work through that tabletop exercise this week, think about that from a legal standpoint. If you're going through that process and that scenario, what are you going to be legally responsible for, or civilly? Is there a potential lawsuit? Is there a bunch of lawsuits? What are you going to do? And the reason that you do some of these things is because of those compliance components. You have a data breach notification requirement, but do you do it sooner? Do you do it later? Do you make sure that you follow the rule but not anything more? It's easy to say, no, we shouldn't do all of that. But when you start thinking about it from a legal lens, where the more you share, the more you may open yourself up to lawsuits, then, it starts to make sense why you don't want to share any more than you have to. There's a lot to go into it. There's a lot to think about. I think that as you look through this from the contingency planning this week, in a lens that's a little bit different when you went through it the first time, it is that legal part. And I really want you to think about that this week. If you have questions, let me know. I know there's some assignments where we'll start thinking through some of these pieces, but I'm looking forward to seeing your responses. And if you have questions, let me know. Enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you. Bye.